It was my boyfriend's birthday party. His ex-girlfriend showed up wearing the exact same white chiffon dress as me. One of his friends suggested playing a blindfolded game to liven up the atmosphere. The Find Your Wife game. With his eyes blindfolded, my boyfriend walked straight over to his ex-girlfriend, embracing her waist and kissing her passionately. The atmosphere in the room became awkwardly silent. Everyone stared in shock, not expecting the game to go so wrong. To everyone's surprise, I started clapping and stepped off the stage, queuing up a nostalgic love song about missing an ex. I Still Miss You. The speakers filled the room with a dreamy, intoxicating melody. I still love you, want to enter your heart. Peel away the mist and grab hold of your voice. The two on stage kissed as if entranced. The friend who suggested the game looked embarrassed, covering his eyes and reluctantly tapping Ethan. Ethan pulled off the sheer scarf, his face flushed with passion. He was quickly replaced by panic and awkwardness. I thought it was you. I was walking towards you. Before I, the real girlfriend, could even ask, Ethan was already anxiously explaining himself. He looked guiltily into my eyes. Emma, it was a mistake. Sophie had been drinking and was wobbly on her feet from Ethan's kiss. She clung to him, looking at me provokingly. Another friend quickly tried to cover for Ethan. It's all Bear's fault for suggesting such a dumb game. He should drink 3 shots as punishment to apologize to Emma. Bear came over with a drink, apologizing profusely, but I ignored him and didn't respond. The atmosphere plummeted again. Everyone thought I was bottling up my anger, ready to explode, and they shrank back a step. Sophie can barely stand. Why don't you two go to one of the private rooms and continue there? I said in a mocking tone, using the most disdainful words to strike at their deepest insecurities. Ethan's face darkened. I said it was a mistake. Don't be so sarcastic. Sophie and I broke up years ago. We're just ordinary friends now. I've always treated her as a friend, and she has a boyfriend too. Don't go looking for trouble for her. Ethan, don't scare Emma. It was our fault to begin with. Sophie finally pulled herself upright, looking sweetly at me. Emma, just treat what happened as a silly joke, okay? Ethan and I used to be the most intimate. You can't hold it against us forever, right? The friends all laughed it off, accepting Sophie's explanation, and telling me to forget the incident. Seeing I didn't argue back, Ethan visibly relaxed, letting out a quiet sigh of relief. If this had happened before, I would have cried, momentarily ripping off my weak facade to question and accuse him in front of everyone, making a scene just to defend my pitiful self-respect that they trampled on. When Ethan and Sophie broke up, it wasn't long before he accepted my pursuit. He came from a better family, had better relationships, and had an unparalleled good-looking appearance. Everyone thought I had used some underhanded tricks to take advantage of the situation and climb up to Ethan's level. Even though I was misunderstood, I never tried to explain myself. Ethan chose me, which meant he liked me. I loved him to the bone and was willing to give everything for him. I almost had the responsibility of taking care of his diet and daily life engraved in my bones. However, he took my wholehearted dedication for granted, while I felt like I never entered his heart. Until 3 years ago, when Sophie reappeared in his life, my nightmare began. He started not coming home at night, getting dead drunk, and rushing to her call. I had argued and fought with him. He always stabbed me again when I was most broken. With Sophie, she needs me. She's having a hard time, only I can help her. She's sick, I can't ignore her. She's heartbroken, I have to accompany her. She's in love again, let me celebrate with her. We had both collapsed in our hearts over and over again. I can't even remember how many times we fought because of her. Afterwards, he would patiently say a few conciliatory words. I would seize the opportunity to retreat. It would be best to go with the flow. If I didn't know my place and continued to throw a tantrum, what awaited me would be an endless cold war. It was the worst time yet when I scolded Sophie for having ulterior motives towards him, for not knowing her place, and for trying to seduce him despite having a boyfriend. He got angry and disappeared for half a month, and even when I apologized and admitted my mistake, he still wouldn't come home. In the end, I panicked. I couldn't eat or sleep, and I reached out to everyone I knew to get him back. It wasn't until I wrote Sophie a 1,000-word apology letter that he finally showed up. Because I loved him and didn't want to lose him, I made sure that after every argument or cold war, things never dragged on overnight. I would immediately apologize whenever he softened his tone. The more I did this, the more I became anxious about losing him. The tighter I held on, the more I suffered. Now I was dealing with severe insomnia. Even with sleeping pills, I found it hard to fall asleep. My love had sunk to the ground, nearly exhausted from endless quarrels. Emma? Sophie is asking you something. Ethan's voice broke through my thoughts. I looked at them leaning against each other, and absent-mindedly replied, Since that's the case, let's consider this matter settled. Don't bring it up again and don't sulk. Come over and have some fun with us. Ethan said softly, as if the earlier game mistake was as trivial as a sneeze. I picked up my bag and slung it over my shoulder, refusing with a seemingly understanding demeanor. No, you all have fun. I have something to take care of, so I'll head back first. Then please settle the bill before you leave, and make me a cup of kudzu tea. I'll need it when I get back tonight. Before Ethan could finish, Sophie pulled him away. Right in front of me, they began to sing love songs together. Ethan was completely absorbed in the performance, gazing at Sophie with tender eyes. Sophie returned his gaze with equal affection. Looking around, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. Besides the two of them, I was the only one capturing everyone's attention. The underlying meaning of the situation was too complex for me to decipher, and I had no desire to analyze it all. As I left, Ethan's eyes remained fixed on Sophie. For a brief moment, I felt I had made a mistake. I shouldn't love him. My love had bound him and affected his ability to love someone else. This time, I was sure I didn't want to love Ethan anymore. I left calmly. Inside, the atmosphere suddenly relaxed, and everyone resumed drinking and laughing loudly. Not a single person condemned their behavior, or questioned whether they owed me an apology. I was no longer in love, so there was no need to dwell on it. I was tired and didn't want to keep fixating on them. There were more important things in life that deserved my energy. On the way home, I felt an unprecedented sense of calm. I wasn't tormented by memories of their passionate kisses. But once I got home and finished washing up, I still struggled to sleep. Even with sleeping pills, I couldn't find rest. I couldn't increase the dosage anymore. 3 years of insomnia couldn't simply be cured by deciding to let go. I used to spend countless nights watching Ethan's sleeping face to get through the long, dark hours. Now, I would have to rely on myself. Ethan stumbled home at 3 in the morning, completely drunk, calling my name incoherently at the entrance. In the past, no matter how late he returned from socializing, I would always wait for him. I'd help him take off his shoes, ask if he felt okay, prepare his favorite hangover remedy fruit tea, and give him a massage to help him relax. But tonight I did nothing. Even after he called my name 3 times, I continued to lie in bed pretending to be asleep. "Emma!" He shouted again, his voice laced with evident anger. I remained unmoved. Outside, I heard the sound of hurried, unsteady footsteps. The next moment, Ethan was in the bathroom, throwing up noisily. The next day, he fell asleep on the bathroom floor, still in his clothes, without even changing his shoes. I took a deep breath and kicked him hard twice. Ethan groggily lifted his head and glanced at his watch. "Why are you just getting up now?" he asked, bewildered. Usually, I would wake up at 5 to make him a heartfelt breakfast. Today, I had the rare luxury of sleeping in until 6:30. Even though I had only managed a couple of hours of sleep, it was still better than staying awake all night. He clumsily got up from the floor, ripped off his dirty clothes, and confronted me. "Why didn't you wait for me to come home? Where's the kudzu tea? Why did you let me sleep in the bathroom all night?" He was still drunk, and I couldn't be bothered to engage with him. "Emma, I'm hungry. There's a breakfast shop downstairs. You can grab something on your way to work." I quickly washed up and cleaned the toilet since I would need to use it too. Ethan frowned in disbelief. "Emma, are you still mad about last night?" "I'm really not angry. You said it was a mistake, and I believe you." Ethan pressed his lips together, suddenly turning on the shower and drenching me with water. I instinctively gasped. He showered with me, humming the love song he had sung with Sophie the night before. How childish. The entire day, I threw myself into work, not sending Ethan a single message or making a call. Instead, it was Ethan who took the initiative to text me. He said he was going to have dinner with Sophie because she had just gone through a breakup. When you don't love someone, you really can become as tough as iron, with no soft spots. I replied casually. "Okay." My indifferent attitude shocked him again. He immediately called me on video. His brow was furrowed, and he seemed to be in a low-pressure state, ready to explode at any moment. "Aren't you going to say something? You used to stop me from going out with her." I smiled gently. "You and Sophie are just ordinary friends, engaging in normal social activities. What's there to stop?" His dark expression instantly froze, his face filled with disbelief. Ethan sent me a photo of him and Sophie drinking together in the evening. They were as close as they were the night before. Sophie had her head resting on his shoulder, her hair cascading down to cover half her face, obscuring her expression. I was surprised because he never shares these kinds of moments. Usually, I have to pry details out of him, and even then he reluctantly reveals just a hint. I can't help but imagine various scenarios based on the little details he shares. What they talked about, what they did, whether there are signs of them rekindling their relationship. Sometimes, these thoughts drive me to the brink of mental exhaustion. While Ethan's distance from me grows, I feel trapped in a dead end. Yet now my heart is as calm as a still pond. "Enjoy your meal." I typed, but the chat with Ethan remained stuck on typing. Without any response. I didn't care what he wanted to say, or what had happened to bring them so close. I was indifferent to how he might comfort Sophie, who had just gone through a breakup. In fact, a strange sense of relief washed over me. I no longer had to stay up late waiting for him to come home or wake up early to prepare him a heartfelt breakfast. Tonight, I didn't bombard him with calls like before. Instead, I calmly went through my evening routine, took 3 sleeping pills, and quietly drifted off to sleep. Miraculously, I fell asleep quickly. It felt so peaceful, so comfortable. It was a long-lost sense of relaxation. Ethan returned early the next morning, his face bruised. He rubbed his forehead and explained, "I got drunk last night and fought with Sophie's boyfriend. I spent the night in jail." I tilted my head and stared at his face for a couple of seconds, not concerned about his pain but asking the question a bystander would care about most. "Oh, did you win?" Ethan looked taken aback, frowning slightly. The air felt thick and silent. He probably expected me to rush to get ice for his injuries or run downstairs to buy him some ointment for bruises. When I didn't respond, he silently nodded, offering no further explanation. It was the weekend, but I had to support an exhibition downtown as a key member of the operations team. Before I even arrived at the exhibition, I received a message from Sophie. Opening it revealed a photo of a red heart tattoo with special effects. My heart sank. That was Ethan's tattoo. I had insisted he get that design. I told him it represented my heart, one that would always beat for him. "Emma, where did Ethan get that cool tattoo?" Sophie messaged. "I love sunflowers and have always wanted to get a sunflower tattoo on my arm, but I haven't found a reliable artist. Please tell me, Emma, haha." At that moment, my already numb heart felt a sharp pain. It was so vivid and raw. I was reminded that I had a golden sunflower tattoo on my chest. Ethan once said, "Get a sunflower tattoo. I love sunflowers." Whenever he felt lost in passion, he would gently caress the sunflower, treating it with utmost care. I mistakenly thought that in those moments he genuinely cherished me, but it turned out he was merely reminiscing about someone who loved sunflowers. Ethan's tattoo was in a private area, on the left side of his groin. Only the closest people could see it during intimate moments. Clearly, they had spent the night together again. I didn't reply to Sophie. I didn't block her either. I simply turned off my phone screen and slid it into my blazer pocket. There was no sudden rush of tears, no hysterical screaming in my car. Instead, a cold, surgical clarity washed over me. The pain was there, yes, sharp and vivid, but it didn't paralyze me like it used to. It simply clarified everything. The sunflower tattoo on my chest, the one I had endured 3 hours of needlework for, believing it was a mark of his exclusive affection, was nothing but a monument to a ghost. I wasn't his lover. I was a living, breathing canvas for his nostalgia. I started the engine and drove to the exhibition center. Work was frantic. The lighting contractor had messed up the wiring in the main hall, and the catering team was late. I threw myself into the chaos, barking orders, negotiating with vendors, and reorganizing floor plans. For 9 straight hours, I didn't stop moving. I didn't think about Ethan's bruised face, or Sophie's mocking text, or the tattoo on his groin. The physical exhaustion felt glorious. It was a tangible, clean fatigue, entirely different from the soul-crushing weariness of waiting up for a man who didn't want to come home. By the time I left the venue, it was past 9 in the evening. A light drizzle had started to fall, blurring the neon lights of the city into streaks of watercolor. I unlocked the door to our apartment. The smell hit me first: stale alcohol, vomit that hadn't been scrubbed properly, and the faint, sweet scent of Sophie's perfume that clung to Ethan's coat thrown over the sofa. Ethan was sitting on the edge of the bed, a bag of frozen peas pressed to his bruised cheek. He looked up as I walked in. He had showered, but his eyes were bloodshot, and he carried the defensive posture of a man ready for an argument. "You're late," he said, his voice grating. "I thought you'd be back at 6. "The exhibition ran long," I said evenly. I walked past him to the closet and pulled out my largest suitcase. He watched me, the bag of peas slipping slightly. "What are you doing?" "Packing," I replied, my voice steady. I opened the drawers and began transferring my clothes into the suitcase. I didn't fold them with my usual meticulous care. I just placed them in. "Emma, stop it." Ethan stood up, dropping the peas onto the bed. "Are we really doing this? I told you, I got into a fight with her ex. I spent the night in a cell. I feel like hell. Can we just not do the silent treatment thing today?" "I'm not giving you the silent treatment, Ethan. I'm moving out." He let out a short, harsh laugh. "Moving out? Right. Over what? Because I didn't come home last night? I was in jail, Emma. Or is this still about the blindfold game?" I said it was a mistake. "How long are you going to punish me for a damn mistake?" I zipped up the first suitcase and pulled out a smaller duffel bag for my shoes and toiletries. "It's not about the game. It's not about the fight." "Then what?" He stepped closer, his shadow falling over me. He tried to soften his tone, resorting to the tactic that always worked. The broken, misunderstood boy. "Emma, come on. I'm hurting. My head is splitting. Just make me some tea and let's talk about this tomorrow." He reached out to touch my shoulder. I didn't slap his hand away. I simply stepped out of his reach. The movement was so casual, so profoundly indifferent that he froze. I saw the picture, Ethan, I said. What picture? His brow furrowed, genuine confusion mixing with rising panic. The one Sophie sent me this morning. Of the little red heart. On your left groin. All the color drained from his face. The defensive anger vanished, replaced by a raw, naked terror. His mouth opened but no sound came out. He looked like a fish suffocating on dry land. Emma. He finally choked out. That. I was drunk. She needed a place to crash after the fight, and... I don't care, I interrupted, and the beautiful thing was, it was the absolute truth. I really don't care, Ethan. Did you sleep with her? Probably. Does it matter? Not anymore. I walked into the bathroom and started sweeping my skincare bottles into my wash bag. He followed me, leaning against the doorframe, his chest heaving. You don't mean that. You're just angry. Hit me, scream at me, throw something. But don't do this cold, dead-eyed thing. It freaks me out. I'm not angry. I zipped the wash bag and brushed past him. I'm just done. You can't just be done. He finally snapped, his voice echoing in the hallway. 3 years, Emma. You've loved me for 3 years. You don't just turn that off in a day. I stopped at the front door, my hand resting on the handle of my suitcase. I turned to look at him. He looked pathetic. The unparalleled good looks that I had once worshipped now just seemed like a hollow mask. You're right, I said softly. It didn't happen in a day. It happened every time you left me waiting. Every time you ran to her. Every time you made me feel like I had to apologize for wanting basic respect. I didn't stop loving you yesterday, Ethan. I've been slowly stopping for 3 years. Last night was just the moment I finally hit zero. I looked at his chest. And by the way, I'm getting the sunflower removed. You can find someone else to play dress up for your memories. His eyes widened in shock. I didn't wait for him to formulate a response. I opened the door, stepped out into the cool hallway, and closed the door quietly behind me. There was no slam door. No final, dramatic exit. Just a quiet click. The first week was a logistical blur. I moved into a sleek, minimalist studio apartment closer to my office. It was expensive, but I had money saved. Money I hadn't spent on Ethan's expensive gifts or groceries to make him elaborate meals. My phone was a battleground. Ethan called dozens of times a day. When I didn't answer, the texts flooded in. At first, they were angry. You're being irrational. You'll be back when you calm down. Then they turned desperate. I can't find the coffee filters. Emma, please. The apartment feels dead without you. I broke it off with Sophie. I blocked her number. I swear to God. Please just talk to me. Then came his friends. Bear texted me. Emma, Ethan is a mess. He's drinking himself half to death. You made your point, just come home. You know he loves you deep down. I looked at Bear's message. This was the same Bear who suggested the blindfold game. The same Bear who laughed when Sophie provoked me. I blocked his number. Then I went through my contacts and blocked every single mutual friend who had ever enabled Ethan's disrespect. It felt like pruning a diseased tree. On a Tuesday afternoon, I went to a laser tattoo removal clinic. The technician, a gentle woman with kind eyes, examined the golden sunflower on my chest. It's quite deeply inked, she said, tracing the outline. It's going to take several sessions, and I won't lie to you. It hurts worse than getting it done. I have a high pain tolerance, I replied. When the laser hit my skin, it felt like hot bacon grease snapping against raw flesh. I clenched my fists, my knuckles turning white, but I didn't make a sound. With every snap, with every agonizing pulse of light, I felt a layer of my past burning away. I watched the ink blister and turn white, destroying the beautiful, tragic symbol of my subservience. When it was over, my chest was wrapped in gauze, throbbing with a fierce, clean pain. I walked out of the clinic feeling lighter than I had in years. That night, for the first time in 3 years, I didn't take a sleeping pill. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, read a chapter of a book I had bought but never had time to read, and lay down in my new empty bed. I expected the familiar anxiety to creep in, the racing heart, the phantom sounds of a key in a lock. But the apartment was dead silent. I closed my eyes. I woke up when sunlight streamed through the blinds. It was 7:30 a.m. I had slept for 8 uninterrupted hours. I lay there for a moment, tears prickling the corners of my eyes, overwhelmed by the sheer, magnificent normality of a good night's rest. 2 months passed. Life without Ethan wasn't just peaceful, it was intensely colorful. I threw myself into my career, eventually getting promoted to project director. I started going to the gym. The dark circles under my eyes vanished, replaced by a healthy, vibrant glow. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I heard through the grapevine, via a colleague who knew one of Ethan's former friends, that Ethan's life had taken a steep nosedive. Without me there to manage his schedule, cook his meals, and iron his shirts, his natural laziness took over. He was repeatedly late to work and had been demoted. As for Sophie, The grand romance they had seemingly rekindled withered under the harsh light of reality. Sophie liked Ethan the prince, the handsome, well-dressed man who was emotionally unavailable. She didn't like Ethan the man-child, who lived in a filthy apartment, drank too much, and didn't know how to use a washing machine. According to the rumors, they had a spectacular, plate-smashing fight, and Sophie had left him for a wealthy tech entrepreneur a week later. I listened to this gossip while sipping a flat white in the office break room. I felt no triumph. I felt no pity. It was like hearing news about a minor celebrity I used to vaguely like in high school. Then came the gallery opening. It was a high-profile event downtown. My company was handling the PR, and I was dressed in a sharp, tailored black suit, my hair slicked back, a glass of champagne in my hand. I was discussing a future collaboration with a prominent sculptor, when I felt a gaze burning into the side of my face. I turned. It was Ethan. For a second, I almost didn't recognize him. He had lost weight, but not in a good way. His suit hung loosely on his frame, his hair was unkempt, and the arrogant, effortless charm that used to radiate from him was completely gone. He looked exhausted. He looked hollow. He stared at me as if I were a mirage. I excused myself from the sculptor and walked toward the edge of the room, near a large abstract painting, intending to bypass him. But he intercepted me. "Emma," he breathed. His voice cracked. "Hello, Ethan," I said, my tone polite, the way one speaks to a distant acquaintance. "You look." He swallowed hard, his eyes raking over me, taking in the confidence, the clear skin, the absolute absence of the weary girl he used to know. "You look incredibly beautiful." "Thank you. If you'll excuse me, I'm working." "Please," he said, stepping into my path. He didn't care that people were milling around. He looked desperate. "Just 5 minutes. Please, Emma. I'm begging you." I looked at my watch. 2 minutes. He let out a shaky breath. "I'm sorry. I know I've said it in 100 voicemails, but I need to say it to your face. I messed up everything. I was so stupid, Emma. I took you for granted. I thought you'd always just be there." "I know," I said. "You did." "Sophie was an illusion," he rushed on, the words tumbling out of him like water from a broken dam. "She's toxic. She just liked the attention. When things got real, when I actually needed someone, she bolted. She's nothing like you. Nobody is like you. I miss you so much I can barely breathe. I can't sleep. The apartment is a tomb. I need you back, Emma. I'll do anything. Therapy, whatever you want. Just give me one more chance." He reached out, his fingers trembling, trying to take my hand. I didn't step back. I just looked down at his hand, then up into his pleading eyes. I felt an incredible sense of liberation. The man I had literally made myself sick over, the man I had begged and cried for, was standing before me, entirely broken, offering me everything I used to want. And I didn't want any of it. "Ethan," I said softly, cutting through his rambling, "do you know what the worst part of insomnia is?" He blinked, thrown off by the question. "What?" "It's the quiet," I said, keeping my eyes locked on his. "It's lying awake at 3 a.m., listening to the city sleep, knowing you are the only one awake in your own personal hell. I spent 3 years in that hell, waiting for a man who was busy sleeping in someone else's bed. I wasn't always. I don't care what you were doing." I cut him off, my voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than a scream. "You broke me, Ethan. You broke me down until I was nothing but an anxious, shaking shell of a woman who thought her only value was in how well she could serve you." "I can fix it," he pleaded, tears finally spilling over his lower lashes. "Let me fix it." "You can't fix glass once it's pulverized into sand," I said. "And the funny thing is, I'm glad you did it. Because the woman I am now, she's unbreakable. And she doesn't love you." I unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of my silk shirt, just enough to reveal the skin just below my collarbone. Ethan's eyes darted down. Where the golden sunflower used to be, there was only flawless, pale skin bearing the faintest, almost invisible ghost of a scar. He physically recoiled, as if I had struck him. He brought a hand to his mouth, a choked sob escaping his throat. The realization hit him, absolute and final. The tattoo was gone. The devotion was gone. I was gone. "Goodbye, Ethan," I said. I didn't wait for him to reply. I turned my back on him and walked away, my heels clicking rhythmically against the polished marble floor. I rejoined the crowd, blending into the laughter, the clinking glasses and the bright, warm light. I didn't look back. I knew he was standing there, watching me walk out of his life forever, trapped in the cold, silent hell he had built for himself. That night it rained again. A soft, rhythmic drumming against the large windows of my new apartment. I made a cup of hot milk, turned off the lamps, and lay in bed listening to the rain. I thought about the past, but it felt like a movie I had watched a long time ago. The pain was gone. The anxiety was gone. There was only the steady, comforting beat of my own heart. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and within minutes, I fell into a deep, dreamless sleep.